Hi everyone, my name is tesler-mabe, and today I want to show you the best guitar bending exercise ever. Before we get into the exercise, I want to quickly talk about how to bend and what exactly it is, in case you don't already know. So essentially on the guitar, we can play frets. For example, I could play something like that. I just played 3 notes in a row. However, I can also bend the string upwards in order to get to those notes, instead of just playing them separately. For example, I achieved these notes by actually taking the string, planting my fingers on there, and pushing the string up. Now, occasionally you do pull the string down in this direction instead, but that's only the case on the lower strings. On the higher strings, if you were to try that, it sounds terrible because I just dragged the string right off the fretboard. So just try it out. Maybe start with whatever you find most comfortable, though for most people that's bending up, and go from there. And quick tip, I always like to bend with my 3rd finger on the fret that I'm bending, and then you can put your other fingers behind it for support, because it can be pretty hard to have enough strength and power to bend with just 1 finger, so use your other fingers to make it easier. So again, let me just show you that whole process in depth. So I want to bend the 15th fret of the B string. So I'm going to take my 3rd finger, put it on that fret, I'm going to put my middle finger behind it for support, and if you even want to make things even easier, put your 1st finger on for support. It's up to you. And then usually people put their thumb over the neck like this, because that helps you stabilize the neck. That's a great thing to do. And then you push the string up like that. Very quickly, I want to talk about 2 types of bends. The first being one where you start with the note completely neutral. The string is not bent at all. And then you push the note up. So again, you see the string is completely neutral, and then I bend. Now the second type of bend is one where the string is already bent. This is commonly referred to as a pre-bend, where, let's say I'm trying to bend to that note. I'm actually going to bend to that note before I even strike the string. And this takes a lot of ear training. Like, the note I just played there was a little flat, so that would tell me I have to try to put a little more pressure to get a little higher. I could even overbend. Like, let's say I'm trying to bend here. It sounds a little sharp. So it just takes some muscle memory to get there. You could even consider getting a headstock tuner, putting it right here so you can watch yourself as you're playing, and that might be a great way to build your ear and your muscle memory. And I actually would highly recommend doing that if you are new to bending. I think you'll get a lot out of that. So once you find the note pre-bent, you just bring the note down, like that. So again, this is where I start with the string completely neutral and then bend up to that note. Sometimes you stop the note before you hear it come back down, like this. Sometimes you hear it come up and down, like this. Or, like the pre-bending technique I just spoke about, sometimes you start with the note already bent to where you want it to be, and then you release it. So before we get to the exercise, I want to quickly touch on a few more points. Firstly, the ease of bending that you have on your instrument definitely depends on what exact guitar you're using. So bending on acoustic guitar is typically way more difficult than bending on electric, and a lot of that has to do with the tension of the strings. And this is also relevant to just electric guitar. For example, I have a short scale guitar back there, the Duosonic, where because the neck is shorter, it's a lot easier to bend because there's a lot less tension. Whereas this guitar here is a standard length electric guitar and will have a little bit more tension. A lot of this also depends on the string gauge, or in other words, the thickness of the strings. For example, I'm using 10s right now, but I'd have a much more difficult time bending if I was using 13s, let's say, like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Or I'd have an even easier time bending if I were using 9s or 8s or 7s or whatever. So it's just about finding what works for you. And one last note I want to give. Typically when people bend, they keep their fingers curved and then they bend the string up. However, for me, just because my fingers naturally do this, I've found that I have the most control when I kind of hyper flex slightly at this distal interphalangeal joint. I've had this checked out by many doctors and they're not concerned because that's just what my hands and fingers naturally do. But in general, for most people, you want to keep it like this and you'll probably find that's how you have the most control. But again, this is the Ayla method and I'm just different like that. You do you. All right, let's get to that exercise I've been talking about this whole time. It actually has 3 parts to it. Let's start on part 1. This is all about finding your reference note and building muscle memory so that you can bend to exactly the note you're looking for. And this, again, is also a great ear training exercise. So let's say we're up here at the 15th fret of the B string, because why not? We're already here. What I'm going to try to do is bend this note to this note here on the 16th fret. So, like I just did, I'm going to play my original note, my target note, and I'm going to try to bend to that note. And then if I had a tuner, I'd be able to see with even more accuracy if I was getting it right on the money where I wanted it to be. And once you feel comfortable with that, we'll move up to 2 frets. And you can approach this 2 ways. You can either keep the note slurred. That might be good while you're still bending, pardon me, still building your bending muscle memory, because you'll be able to hear if you're too flat or sharp, and you'll be able to make adjustments. But ideally, you get to a point where you can just bend right to the note, and you'll be able to hear them all separately and articulate like that, because that's the best test of muscle memory. But overall, I think being able to do both is great because you'll be able to turn those into licks down the road. We'll talk about that at the very end. But to keep going, let's say you're feeling good about 2 frets. Let's try 3. So we're bending to 3 frets above that original. That seemed okay to me. And then once you're comfortable with that, you could even keep going. And I think that's a good place to stop. Aiming for 4 frets above is pretty solid, I'd say. Again, it depends on the guitar you have. You might find that you're still new to this. There's a lot of tension on the guitar. Maybe you won't be able to get 4 frets. No worries. Conversely, you might find that 4 frets is super easy because your guitar just allows you to do that. Or you're just super awesome at bending. Either way, great to work on it. And again, try this separately, where you're separating each of the notes. That was too flat. Or you can slur them. And then, when you're comfortable with that, let's move on to step 2 of this example. This is going to require even more muscle memory because we're going to be descending. So what I mean by that is, let's start kind of the same as before. We'll start with just 1 fret. But what I did there was I actually started with the top note and then came down to that 15th fret. And then now let's try from 2 frets up. Three frets up. 4 frets up. So again, it's all about muscle memory. Can you get to the right pitches without even hearing them? All right, number 3 is to combine what we've looked at so far with ascending and descending, because this is kind of the ultimate way to put it all together. So what we can do is play our reference pitches. That's what we're going to try to emulate. Now, let's try with 3 frets above. That's what we're going to try to play. And once you get comfortable with that, try 4 frets above. Let's try again. I need to work on that more. And after bending for a while, you might find that you want to play the practice pitches again, the reference pitches, just because, again, this is all about training your ear. That's pretty solid, I like that. And again, the magic of this, once you're starting to get the feel for all of this, even if it's just 1 fret, or 2 frets. This can turn into a really tasteful lick for your playing, because instead of playing those chromatic notes one by one, you can turn it into something like this. You can either pick them, like we've been doing for the practice exercise, or you can stop picking altogether. And that can turn into a really expressive lick for your playing. Let me kick on some overdrive and just give you an example of what that could sound like. Let me play some classic rock licks and then throw in some chromatic bending licks like we've been practicing and see what that sounds like. Okay, I like that sound of that stuff. That's the Ayla sound. Everyone makes fun of, like, if you want to mock my playing, it's always wee, 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 wee. So again, not only did I show you an exercise that'll help you build muscle memory, train your ear, all that good stuff, but like we saw at the end, it can actually become lick. It can become a lick that you throw into your playing. That can give your playing a really evocative, vocal-like quality to it. I point to people like Tomo Fujita as an example of someone who uses this all the time in his playing. He's someone who's inspired me so much. I think you should check him out if you like the style of playing. And I hope you learned a little something today. I hope you enjoy practicing your guitar, and please leave a comment down below of what your favorite lick that has a sweet bend in it is. I think the community would love to know. And I hope you have a wonderful day.